It's Saturday, January 17th, the year of our Lord, 2026. It's Spathon, and it's the middle of the weekend. I hope you all are enjoying the hell out of it, enjoying the gift of life God has bestowed upon us. I've been in a good mood all day. I finally got my exhaust system fixed after years without a muffler, and it now sounds like a lean, mean machine with its incredible 92 horses of Japanese muscle. Anyway, my car, it's a 1999 Mitsubishi Mirage DE 1.5 liter manual two-door coupe. You know, it's nothing spectacular, but it's got 243,000 miles clocked on it so far without a sweat, still running great. I take almost obsessive care of it thanks to the insane car prices today and the crazy insurance costs, and I don't want any part of that. It's a great little car, though. It only cost me $1,100 back in 2015, and the original owner had it. She grew up in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and yes, I said she learned how to drive a manual in that rough mountainous terrain, and it definitely showed at the time because the car still had the factory clutch still installed when I bought it, which it was at about 184,000 miles at the time, which factory clutches, they don't tend to last over 100,000 miles unless you take pretty good care of it or you definitely know how to drive one. And to this day, the clutch is still rock solid. My dad, he was an industrial engineer for a major car company, and he's an automotive wizard. He taught me how to drive a manual on my first car, which was a 1989 Mazda 323 hatchback. Anyway, so yeah, I learned how to drive a stick the right way, never downshift, never leave it in gear when it's parked, never hold the clutch pedal down when waiting for a red light to change, maximize neutral whenever possible, and so on. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, so whatever, I don't care. It's Saturday night. So I got a bunch of fun Democrat politician content for y'all, so this should be fun to dig through. We'll read through the posts, we'll watch the videos, we'll check out the articles, and we'll read some comments. So I'll just start here with Pocahontas Warren, which is definitely fitting because on my For You list, the top one just happened to be Pocahontas, so whatever. Maybe I'll get to that one later. So anyway, this is from about 7 hours ago. Millions of people across the country are looking at their health insurance bills and saying, quote, I'm not going to be able to pay for my rent, groceries, or utilities and keep my insurance. Republicans took an already broken healthcare system and made it a whole lot worse. Well, who made the healthcare system the way it is today? Does anybody know? Anybody? Bueller, whatever. Yeah, obviously it's fucking Democrats. It's Obamacare. That's what turned our health insurance industry into an absolute catastrophe. But you know, I'll probably read through some comments for any of these posts that are quote unquote short and sweet. Maybe I'll go through some of the comments. I don't have anything structured. I just have a whole bunch of just Democrat posts, and I'm just going to go through them one by one because why not? So anyway, I posted this. Who made the broken healthcare system? Say a Pocahontas, say Obamacare. So we got that one with President Trump, Pocahontas. Looks like she has a hot dog for like a fifth finger. I mean, yeah, that's AI if I ever seen it. Yeah, AI tends to do some weird stuff with digits. Sometimes it'll give you an extra digit. Sometimes it'll have too few. But anyway, that one's pretty obviously AI, but of course it is. All right, so World Traveler, that's a lie. The already broken healthcare system is thanks to Barack Obama, you and the Democrats. You forced it through. Now the money will go direct to Americans, not stolen by the insurance companies. I cannot wait until you are held accountable. I don't think they're ever going to be held accountable because I just don't think the Republicans, they don't have the guts. They really don't. I mean, like they might try to move to censure, but I mean, whenever you try to get all the Republicans to censure a Democrat, it's like pulling freaking teeth, man. I mean, they've tried over and over again. I mean, even against the likes of Ilhan Omar, for crying out loud, that I don't even think they even could get her successfully censured. But maybe they did. But even if they did, what was it? A gentle little pat on the wrist. All right. So Paul Aces Pula. Democrats created Obamacare. You did this. Socialism never works. Yeah, not only did Democrats create Obama, they created it, they rolled it out, they put it to the floor for a vote, and it received 0 Republican votes, not a single Republican vote. The same with the subsidies that they're fighting tooth and nail to reinstate. And Doge TX, assuming Texas with cowboy hat and all. Warren's right about one thing, the system's broken, but pointing fingers at Republicans ignores decades of bipartisan failure. The real issue, bloated bureaucracies, big pharma's chokehold on D.C., and Medicare fraud bleeding taxpayers dry. Take the big beautiful bill, Trump's landmark reform slashing $1.6 trillion in waste while redirecting funds to patient-first care. It's not about party lines, it's about hospitals buying up practices, hiking prices 30%, and insurers rubber stamping $2,600 monthly premiums. Yikes. When bureaucrats let 18% of every healthcare dollar vanish into administration bloat, families get crushed. Fixing this means breaking monopolies, not scapegoating. real reforms happening, cutting red tape, not writing blank checks to the same corrupt system. And yeah, it does point out, pointing fingers at Republicans, even though I'm sure Republicans are not 100% innocent in all this. I'm sure they take some amount of big pharma money and healthcare money, the whole establishment, quote unquote. So anyway, $2,600 monthly premiums is insane. Look, I have insurance. It ain't great insurance, but whose insurance out there is great? Historically speaking. I mean, take your insurance from like your policy from 2009 and compare it to today. It's absolutely night and day. But with all that said, my insurance, it's $70 a month. That's all my health insurance costs. It's private because I actually work for a living and, got a full-time job. It's not an earth-shatteringly amazing job. I mean, I'm in the low middle class bracket and absolutely love my job. And I would rather work nowhere else. I mean, like that's the one thing tying me down is certainly not the paycheck because I'm not making nearly enough, but I absolutely love it. And the health insurance, like my portion of the health insurance is incredible. It's like $18 a week. It's insanely good. And my employer, they pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars on I pay $70 a month. They pay like many hundreds of dollars per month. It absolutely blew my mind when I checked that during open enrollment last year to see how much that they're actually paying for it. Cause I don't think I ever paid attention, but I only just started getting healthcare just like probably a year or two ago because, I don't know. I was just one of those types where I'm trying to save pennies anywhere I possibly can. And at the time I'm like, well, insurance is so insanely absurd. I mean, I don't have the kind of money to cover 30% of anything that might happen. So, what's the point? But anyway, I guess I unlocked a few extra brain cells and figured, what, I'm probably better off with it than not with it. But anyway, yeah, dude, $2,600 monthly premiums. You probably could go to, does Cobra still exist? You remember that like if you lose your job, you can go through Cobra and it was a lot more expensive than your company insurance, but you still had insurance at least. Even that's probably a fraction of Obamacare at this point. So, all right, CK Cardano, 5-point freedom platform of the people, universal healthcare, living wage, education, national voting holiday, and grand unified UTXO theory. I have no idea what that means. Obviously it's all crypto jargon, crypto language. I mean, I was suspicious about the whole Cardano thing because that's an altcoin. It's a cryptocurrency. All right. So anyway, let's go back. Let's head down. Matt Van Swole. Actually, I wanted to lead with this because he says this. As a former Democrat voter, I'm totally lost here. Are you telling me that the current Democratic platform is now pro-fraud and pro-wasteful spending, anti-transparency, pro-discrimination, and pro-war? I don't know how we get here, or maybe he said how we got here. What the hell happened? Yeah, I would love to know that too. Of course, Democrats are like, we're not pro-war. We're not pro-war at all. Like Donald Trump, he's the warmonger, except he stopped like 9 separate conflicts across the world just in 2025 alone. Well, maybe that might actually include possibly the Abraham Accords from his first administration. I think there was another conflict that he put a stop to during his first term, but still, it's a hell of a lot more than probably any other president has done in decades and decades as far as, stopping wars and ongoing conflicts. But Democrats, they just want to give hundreds of billions of your dollars over to Ukraine. Oh, but they're not pro-war though. Yeah, okay. All right, so anyway, here's a video. Chuck Schumer.
Restore most of the cuts and even go higher than previous years on many of the programs that DOJ slashed. When I met our nominee for HUD secretary, then he was nominee, he talked a nice game, but he doesn't seem to have the clout to make those views prevail over the DOJ people, over the cut people. But we have worked really hard in the budget and gotten bipartisan support to increase these amounts and undo a lot of the cuts, which are essential.
Yeah, right. And that's why the national deficit just keeps ballooning up and up and up. And it hasn't gone down like a single time in how many decades at this point. Like we're approaching $40 trillion. Over 25% of the entire federal budget goes to interest on the debt, paying off the credit card, just with interest. They're not even paying off the credit card. They're just paying off the interest. Meanwhile, they just keep increasing the limit of the credit card. They just keep going up and up. Well over $40 trillion, probably by the year 2030, it'll probably be $50 trillion. And I think that the interest on the national debt that we'll be stuck having to pay is probably going to be approaching 40%. And where does that stop? 30 years from now, 35 years from now? like 80%, 90% of all of the income that the federal government takes in from the taxpayers is going to have to pay directly to interest on the national deficit. I mean, it's just simple math. I mean, if they don't slow down the national deficit, where's it going to go? It will get to that point, unless I guess we default on it. And if that happens, then, God help us, because that's probably going to trigger World War III if nothing else does in the meantime. All right, so let's move on to Eric Swalwell from 7 hours ago. Breaking: General Joe M17, not familiar with him, deletes his defamatory tweet. I remember this from earlier today. Stay on a fence, my friend. So yesterday, okay, so it does say it's unavailable. I actually thought, oh yeah, he did delete it. Oh man. Well, I took a screenshot of it, and let me see if I can find it. Hold on. All right, magic of the pause button. I found it. I had a feeling this was going to happen, that this post might have been deleted, because I was scrolling through my X account earlier today while I was waiting for my muffler to get put on, and I came across this, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to grab a screenshot. So I did just that. So here it is. This is the screenshot. Rep. Eric Swalwell says, you can take down this bullshit or hire the best lawyer you can afford. You have 24 hours, TikTok, which I believe it was over 24 hours by the time that he took it down, but he took it down. So, and then of course, Eric Swalwell started bragging, haha, told you to take it down. So anyway, Joe M. Eric Swalwell is as corrupt as Gavin, and he will not become California's next governor. One by one, they will fall. And here's the follow-up. This is the entire post that he took down. And of course, you get to see it right here. Probably not exclusively. I'm sure a lot of people took screenshots of this too. It is my right to do so. It came across my account, and I put it on my phone. So anyway, Eric Swalwell is as corrupt as Gavin, and he will not become California's next governor. One by one, they will fall. Eric's wife has just spilled the beans. Swalwell's wife alleges that he's not only been cheating on her, but he's been embezzling millions from the U.S. taxpayer. Quote, he has a dozen companies that get no application grants, end quote, said Henrietta Swalwell. Quote, it's all built off insider information, end quote, by loser. And that is the post that Eric Swalwell did not like, to the point where he was threatening legal action if he didn't take it down, which of course he said right there, you can take down this bullshit, or, you talk to my lawyer. So, and then he responded to that about 8 hours ago, and it says, breaking, he deletes his defamatory tweet. Stay on offense, my friends. So I guess, I don't know, maybe he just figured it wasn't worth fighting. That was an awfully specific message. I mean, for his wife to say that he's cheating on her, which we already know that's true. I mean, he's cheating on her with the Chinese spy. I mean, I'm sure that Eric Swalwell, I'm sure he's denied it the entire time. But I mean, people were dunking all over him when they found that out. That not only was he banging some Chinese chick, some like non-American Chinese lady, but she was also a member of the Chinese Communist Party and determined to be a spy. At least so I've read. Do I have conclusive, ironclad evidence that is 100% without any doubt completely true? No. I mean, I don't have absolute facts of that. I repeat what I see for the most part, and that's that. But that's definitely not only me who talked about that. That was going crazy viral, a couple of years ago, maybe a few years ago at this point. So, yeah, I mean, we know at the very least he was, well, it's widely believed by the public Rep. Eric Swalwell was cheating on his wife with a CCP spy. So, you know what? Magic pause button again. I checked on Grok, and there is no confirmed evidence that exists that Eric Swalwell had an affair with Christine Fang or Fang Fang. See, I got no problem with looking stuff up. I mean, if there's no proof, then there's no proof. And I'm not going to try to twist anything and say without, there's no shadow of a doubt. I 100% believe that he did that. I mean, I'll look it up. I don't have a problem doing that. But I'm not going to read through all of this, but U.S. intelligence officials identified Fang as targeting rising politicians, including Swalwell, via fundraising, networking, and in some cases, romantic sexual relationships with at least 2 Midwestern mayors, per 2020 Axios, reporting based on intel sources. Well, not sure if they actually questioned Fang Fang. Why don't we just ask her straight up? Did you bang Eric Swalwell or no? I mean, that's what I would do. But anyway, in short, close professional political association with the suspected CCP-linked spy? Yes, he did. A proven affair? No, not proven. But anyway, a House Ethics Committee probe, of course, in 2021 through 2023. Of course, when Democrats were in control. I mean, look, I guess you can at least give them enough to say that, hey, at least they looked into it. Could there have been some bias at hand? Probably. Into his interactions with Fang ended with no findings of wrongdoing or violations. Well, did they bring her in? Did they question her directly? Maybe they did. I'm not saying they didn't. Maybe they did, and maybe that's that. I would assume if they did, they would have probably spoken it on a megaphone to everybody. Probably would have her on video and the whole 9 yards. So anyway, whatever. We'll just move on to the next thing. Pramila, Jayapal. What we see, ICE agents dragging and beating people in their own neighborhoods. What we don't see, communities made safer by ICE presence. Cut the BS. ICE is terrorizing our neighbors, and I won't stand for it. Yeah, so because illegal immigrants are totally their neighbors. They're their constituents. They've probably been voting for them, the whole 9 yards. I would actually like to see, look, they're going to show 4 different very short video clips of ICE agents apprehending illegal immigrants. And, of course, leftist agitators and violent leftists, the outrage mob. But of course, we're not going to see any context behind what the agents are doing. What happened, I don't know, let's say up to 5 minutes before we started watching each and every one of these. I'd like to see the 5 minutes prior to this, because it would probably completely turn everything right on its face. It would actually reveal what actually happened, because they're apprehending people who are violent criminal illegals, and also, of course, the leftist agitators who are throwing objects, trying to hit them with their vehicles, this, that, and the other. But this is on CNN, so you can imagine where this goes.
On the streets of Minneapolis, the administration still surging federal agents there.
Hell yeah, they are 2,000 strong.
Come out tonight,
probably even more at this point.
Including this one that we're still trying to learn more about as we come on the air this evening, that shows a woman being forcefully pulled from. Trying
to learn more about it. If I'm not mistaken, I already read a post directly from the federal or the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, where they went over this, and she was an agitator, and I believe she was given a lawful order to stop her vehicle because she was essentially driving through a crowd. Well, maybe that was put poorly. I mean, she wasn't trying to like blast her way through a crowd of people, but she was obstructing federal agents with her motor vehicle, and she refused to get out, so they yanked her out.
A couple of blocks,
as you can see. And then she was screaming, "I'm disabled, I'm going to the doctor,"
surrounded her,
and so on.
Doors, and used a knife to actually remove her seatbelt off of her. This is what we could hear in the videos. When you listen, she was talking about being disabled and trying to get to a doctor's office. Again, we are trying to learn more about that video. We've also seen ICE agents capture a man in this
Did you see the bottom left?
As protesters were honking car horns, banging on drums, blowing whistles, as you can see. And also this, when a man stood in front of a vehicle that was being driven by ICE agents, an officer pushed him to the ground, causing him to tumble into the street.
Yeah, this is called obstruction, ladies and gentlemen. When you're impeding the passage of federal immigration agents or federal agents in general, it could be FBI, it could be DEA. Well, if they're conducting the normal course of their duties, it could even involve the freaking IRS. It could involve any type of agent. But if you're obstructing them, if you're preventing their passage, you are committing a felony. That is felony obstruction. When you obstruct federal agents, that's felonious, and that could come with an 8-year prison term. So dude's lucky that he didn't just get full on arrested. And this is what irritates me about what federal agents are doing. I'm assuming he's going to get out of his vehicle, throw him to the side, and then he'll keep going. But what he should do, as soon as he goes hands-on with this guy, should immediately arrest him. Completely arrest him, go through the process, do all the paperwork. I know it's a pain in the ass, but it needs to be done. That's absolutely what needs to be done. And they're not doing nearly enough of it.
A bus that was about to pass by the scene came to a quick stop.
As I said. Again, obstruction. It was really stupid of the agents not to arrest him. That's absolutely what they should have done. They lay a hand on any agitator, any person who's trying to fan the flames. Arrest him. Arrest him. Throw him in jail. Haul him in front of a federal judge, and let's get the process going. Because otherwise, he's just going to be right back out there 5 minutes later. In fact, a lot of them, as soon as they get knocked to the ground, they'll just stand back up and jump in front of the car again. Over and over and over again. All right, so this is from Colin Rugg 4 hours ago. New Democrat Eric Swalwell says he will take away ICE agents' driver's licenses if elected governor so they can't drive. Brags about how not shy he is. They're not going to be able to drive. I will take your driver's license. Good luck walking to work. You know me. I'm not shy.
They're going to lose their immunity. They're not going to be able to drive. I will take your driver's license. Good luck walking to work, assholes. Also, I will direct law enforcement to use every power to prosecute them for battery, false imprisonment, and murder. You know me. I'm not shy. Over the last 10 years, I worked on the Russia investigation with Adam Schiff. I helped lead the second
that went
impeachment
nowhere.
as a manager. I've got the only lawsuit that has survived this new presidency. It's me and the January 6 officers. I'm not naive about who he is.
Again,
There's
that's
only
not going to
one side
go
of the
anywhere.
ball to be on behalf of Californians when it comes to ICE, and it's offense.
January 6 officers, what the hell is he talking about? He's suing the Capitol Police? What the fuck is he talking about? All right, whatever. All right, yep, that's Eric Swalwell for you. I mean, good luck actually prosecuting that in a court of law, but he's not going to do that. Instead, if he's in any position of power, he's going to drag them in front of, well, I don't know if he specifically can, not if Republicans can retain Congress, but I'm not so sure. Look, they have, the outlook, in my opinion, shows that they have every ability to retain Congress. However, I'm sure they're going to try to find a way to fumble that around and F that up. But, I mean, his plan would be just dragging people in front of a committee and just grilling them. And that's about as far as that's going to go, because that's what they did with the impeachments and with the Adam Schiff bullshit and on and on and on, yada, yada. All right, Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock from earlier today. This should send chills down your spine. Our rights are in danger. A Border Patrol agent scans the face of a driver as they stop and question him in the street during an immigration enforcement operation in Minneapolis on January 13, 2026. Well, yeah, because he's probably exactly who he's looking at in the picture. Dude's an illegal immigrant. What a shocker. All right, America. Hannity, you voted against a bill to deport illegals convicted of S crimes. Do you regret that? And Democrat Congressman Shri Thanedar says no. This dude's a weird looking dude, man. I don't know what's up with this guy. I think it's maybe heavy makeup. I have no idea, man, but whatever. Let's take a look.
That's not what you said. Sir, you voted against a bill that mandated the deportation of illegals convicted of sex crimes. Do you regret that vote now?
No, I don't regret that vote. Look,
Uh-oh.
no bill is perfect, and many times...
What if it was your
Democrats are
your
psychotic.
sister, your daughter
Absolutely
that was
psychotic,
raped?
y'all.
That's a sex crime. You want that person to stay?
Look, there are multiple things in a bill. I don't agree with every one of them.
Sir, you got to answer the question. If your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend, mother was raped by an illegal immigrant, you voted against a bill that would deport these illegals convicted of sex crimes. You're perfectly fine if they stay in the country.
Sean, look, I serve in Congress. I don't.
Yeah, because they get counted on the census as of right now.
Look,
Why
most
did
of
you
these
vote for
bills
that?
are not.
Of course, we could put it into that if Republicans had a freaking spine.
Why would you allow sex crime convicts to stay in the country that entered the country illegally? Why would you vote for that?
It was not.
Dude, not only does he vote for it, he advocates for it.
Include that issue. There were other things in the bill, and so I cannot pick and choose. I don't have a veto where I can strike out.
It's all about
one
congressional
portion
seats,
of
ladies and gentlemen.
You would have voted against it.
Of course, we all know
What
that.
was the big provision that prevented you from kicking these people out of our country?
Look, I don't memorize. I vote on thousands of bills.
Memorize. You don't know anything.
I don't know.
I do believe that such.
And that's also a problem, ladies and gentlemen. They're passing way too much bullshit.
You voted against it, so obviously you don't.
Yeah, and what's absolutely wild now, I get a lot of people, they don't vote during like an off presidential election. Whenever, every other year when we're going up for the midterms, a lot of people don't vote. I think that's absolutely just insane, completely insane, especially in the political climate we're in right now. I mean, if you go to vote, then you're in some way, shape, or form somewhat politically either active or knowledgeable or what have you. And for Trump to win the popular majority in 2024, and the number one thing he ran on was immigration, illegal immigration, sealing up the southern border. He was literally talking about the southern border when he was shot in the head, for crying out loud. I mean, that's not all he ran on, obviously. He ran on a whole slew of different problems that we have in the country. But however, with the stance that Democrats are taking pro-illegal immigration, pro-criminal illegal immigration, anti-ICE, anti-federal agents, I mean, they've taken this absolutely brutally insane stance, and they're doubling down on it. And if the Republicans lose the House and or the Senate, then I don't know, man. just complete loss for words, because just the absolute just political rhetoric, the violent rhetoric, it's turned up to level 11 at this point, and it's going on and on day after day. But of course, on the other hand, I look at this stuff every day. Democrats, they're just like, there's probably thousands of these posts on a daily basis that are just constantly streaming in, just nonstop. So, maybe it's just me paying attention to this all day, so it makes it appear as though, it's being blasted all over the place, when in fact, a very, very tiny little fraction of a percentage of people are actually seeing what I'm showing here on the screen. Like, for instance, look at this. Only 29 likes, only 1,400 eyeballs laid on this post, and most of those didn't even read it. Most were just scrolling. You know what I mean? I mean, that's basically how it plays on the X platform. So anyway, Senator Jacky Rosen, the one that virtually nobody saw, she says Maria Corina Machado. So, by the way, this one's not that. It's not turned up in any like real meaningful temperature in any kind of divisive way at all. She's talking about Maria Corina Machado. She met her. She's the one that won the Nobel Peace Prize last year. So this is a really tame post compared to probably literally everything else that I'm going to show. So she said, Maria Corina Machado is an inspiring leader who has risked her own life and freedom in the fight for democracy for the Venezuelan people, and it's clear that she remains committed to making sure the voice of the Venezuelan people is heard and respected. It was my honor to meet with her and hear her vision for a future of Venezuela decided by the Venezuelan people. It's almost like the X platform. If the Democrats ever post something that's like in any positive way, whether if it's beneficial to people or not beneficial at all, it's almost like it just gets buried. I mean, for this to only get 29 likes, that's kind of, I guess that would have been nice if more people had seen that post, but nope. Senator Jacky Rosen, same. Let's see how many likes this one got. Oh, only 17. So, okay, well, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess not a lot of people are paying attention to Senator Jacky Rosen, which is kind of crazy because she's a U.S. Senator, for crying out loud, for Nevada. Yeah, U.S. Senator for Nevada. Only getting 17 likes for this post. Americans can't afford health care. Grocery prices are too high, and housing is unaffordable for far too many hardworking families. Donald Trump needs to focus on being president of the United States rather than acting president of Venezuela to line the pockets of his big oil buddies. Well, don't forget, he's also the head of the committee for the Gaza, Palestine, Gaza, Israel situation. Free Gaza. He freed Gaza. President Trump did. And he's overseeing that whole transition, the 20-point plan and all that stuff. So, don't forget that he's also doing that. It's not just Venezuela. President Trump's wearing a lot of hats around the world today. All right, so let's take a look at this. See what she says about Venezuela.
Venezuela, start being president for the United States.
The big bad orange man cheetah.
Shirked his constitutional responsibility by notifying Congress before the action to arrest Maduro and his wife, but he had plenty of time to call the oil companies before and after. So clearly about the oil.
Yeah, man, there's $17 trillion of oil out there, man.
Regime change, and so he needs to quit looking at the bank accounts of himself and his buddies and look at.
Yeah, there was no regime change because Nicolas Maduro was not the president. There was no regime. Like, he was an illegitimate president. Instead, what Trump is doing is reinstating the rightful individuals, which, I mean, maybe there could be an argument to be said that Maria Machado, was that her name again? Yeah, Maria Corina Machado, that she really should be the rightful president for Venezuela because she ran against Maduro and then he blacklisted her from running, so she had to go into exile. So she I don't know if she recommended or she appointed, I don't know what the right word is, but somebody ran in her stead, and he was the one who actually won the election 70% to 30%, but Nicolas Maduro just decided to stay president anyway. So the guy who actually won had to go into exile in Spain. So I guess there's a strong argument to be made that she really should be the rightful president of Venezuela, even though the other guy was technically voted on. So, I guess probably legally speaking that it wouldn't be her that would be the president. It'd be what's-his-name who actually ran. But not to say that they shouldn't have a new special election and she should be running. I mean, I think that probably the majority of Venezuela would certainly be on board with that. But anyway, whatever. I'm getting off topic.
The bank
maybe
accounts
not.
of the American people at the kitchen table, where you've been to the grocery.
Here
I
we
go
go,
to the grocery
kitchen
store.
table.
My husband and I every week. Grocery prices aren't getting any lower. It's cold outside. It's the middle of winter.
Healthcare's not getting any cheaper either. No thanks to Democrats.
Healthcare ripped away from millions
and their
of
billionaire
Americans.
health insurance buddies.
He needs to stop being president of Venezuela, start being president for the United States.
Yeah, two people could play that game, Democrats. Y'all got a lot of billionaire buddies, too. Congressman Maxwell Alejandro My office is monitoring reports of a potential ICE detention facility in East Orange County. We know these facilities fuel ICE's reign of terror on our streets and behind closed doors. I will continue to stand with and defend our immigrant community and share updates. And that's WFTV.com. Local news. Channel 9. There you go. Channel 9. Not even sure. Oh, right here in Orange County, Florida. I should have known that. I mean, I'm not in Orange County. I'm in Pinellas County. It's over on the West Coast. So, but it's not that far away. WTFB. I'm sure I've heard of them before. Orlando's not all that far from here. Anyway, federal immigration officials. Good grief, man. Can we please get rid of this? No, we can't? All right, whatever. I try to make the text large so you can read it if you're looking at this on a small screen like your phone. All right, federal immigration officials are considering Orange County as the site of a new detention facility for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE senior advisor David Venturella confirmed this with Channel 9 investigative reporter Ashlyn Webb after more than 30 people, including ICE officials and federal contractors, were seen leaving a site visit at a vacant warehouse off Transport Drive Friday. Venturella says it's exploratory and ICE is in very early talks. Yeah, well, they're probably going to make it a facility. Several sources told 9 Investigates ahead of the site tour that ICE may be looking at this specific property. The warehouse is located at 8660 Transport Drive in the back of an industrial park in Sunbridge and is surrounded by woods. So it's a little off the beaten path. I don't know. I guess they're signaling what? That the illegal immigrants in Orange County should probably leave the state and head straight up to Minnesota if you can handle the brutal cold. But obviously Minnesota wants you there. But the federal government certainly doesn't. We found the property's lease listing online showing inside of the more than 400,000 square foot warehouse. It's marketed as a state-of-the-art facility with a prime location within minutes of Orlando's major highways, right off State Road 528, and within a 30-minute drive from Orlando's International Airport. Well, within a 30-minute drive, dude, that's kind of far away, man. 30 minutes from an airport ain't that close. It's kind of a long drive. All right, Tammy Duckworth. That was on January 16th, so yesterday. 1 year ago, Trump fired 17 inspectors general, independent watchdogs who serve across administrations of both parties. Since then, he's been tapping his own political allies to conduct oversight of his own administration. That's a clear conflict of interest, and that has to stop. And I don't know a whole lot about inspectors general, not very knowledgeable about it, but I do know that it was Ronald Reagan who also fired a whole bunch of inspectors general. And I think he fired like 16 or something, and Trump, according to her, fired 17. Anyway, I don't know. The Ronald Reagan, supposedly he did that just so he can, line everybody up with the outlook that he had laid out for his administration or his incoming administration. Obviously, Trump has the right to do it because he did it. Democratic senators' bill would prevent political appointees from serving as an IG. Senator Duckworth's bill would put restraints on Trump and future presidents. So essentially, I don't know what unelected bureaucrats or just putting people in that like not even by proxy the people can vote for. All right, so Congressman Shri Thanedar, a baby was hospitalized after being tear gassed by ICE. The family was not illegal and not even protesting, just driving home from the Suns basketball game. This can't be reformed. It's time to abolish ICE. Well, I saw, actually, I didn't see a video of it. I saw an image. Actually, this might be it. A Minnesota family says 3 of their children, including a 6-month-old, were transported to the hospital after federal agents reportedly fired tear gas at their vehicle. What you need to know is streaming exclusively on Disney+. Stream now. So, yeah, let's see if this
We're
is
learning more about
involved in it
another dangerous incident
this has to do with
involving
it.
ICE. A family says 3 of their children, including...
No, see, like, do we really know what happened? If there's no video, then no, not really. It's kind of a they said, we said kind of situation.
A 6-month-old were hospitalized after agents reportedly fired tear gas at their vehicle.
Yeah, well, tear gas doesn't cause airbags to deploy. Yeah, see, that looks like a little bit more was done than just that. Again, having some sort of video footage would certainly be helpful. Not sure if it's out. I haven't seen any.
Jackson says they were on their way home from a basketball game when gas grenades set off the airbags, trapping them inside as gas filled the car. After people nearby...
All right, well, can gas grenades do that? Can they deploy side airbags?
Had stopped breathing.
According to them, they
says
can.
She had to perform CPR to revive her own child.
Me getting my baby, having to get my baby like mouth to mouth. I thought I was dying, honestly, and the way I felt, I could imagine how my kids felt because I'm a full-blown grown adult. I just knew that it was even worse for them.
And late Thursday night, a federal judge in Minnesota ordered the release of a Liberian man 4 days after heavily armed agents were seen using a battering ram to enter his home. The judge said in his ruling that his Fourth Amendment rights against unlawful search and seizure were violated. Garrison Gibson was in his home with his wife and 9-year-old daughter when he was arrested. He's being held at an immigration center, according to the Associated Press.
Oh, so that's what they're going to be doing. They're just going to say, well, their Fourth Amendment rights were violated, even though that they have a federal order of removal. And plus, the whole kids at the basketball game, like, don't know about it. I think it's a little suspicious that federal agents would just target a random vehicle and fire tear gas at it, and all that breaking out. I don't know. I'm not saying that agents are incapable of doing any wrong whatsoever. I just find that a little suspicious that that it would just out of the blue, maybe they were driving through a protest. Just be straight up with it. Were you just driving right through a protest? Well, of course you can't rely on the fake news media to be transparent with that in any way, shape, or form. That's probably the most likely thing that was happening. If they were truly driving home from a basketball game, had nothing to do with anything at all, just heading home, they were probably at the wrong place at the wrong time. Bunch of leftist agitators, and some tear gas was getting fired. One of them just, went a little off course and struck their vehicle. I mean, I would say it's pretty likely it was probably that simple if they weren't among the agitators. Anyway, so from Amused Weaponization, Democrat activists Jennifer Welsh and Jim Acosta say mass prosecutions of Trump and Republicans would be necessary for national reconciliation when Democrats regain power, arguing that expanding the Supreme Court would be required to jail Trump. I mean, how is this not like an insurrection, if I ever heard one? So anyway, this woman is an absolute nutcase. She looks to be the embodiment of the toxic, furious, and wretched plague that has swept our nation, the angry, white, liberal female. I see some very similar physical symptoms of this horrifying affliction in her and in most of these women. How about you? Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how you fix this whole nightmare. I think in the coming years, the country certainly looks bleak. I don't think things are going to get any better anytime soon, not unless the country just like overwhelmingly votes conservative, I guess, because Republicans, they still have common sense for the most part. They're not the ones fanning the flames. They're not the ones pushing for globalism, for a global tyranny and Marxism and socialism. They're not pushing for all that nightmarish dystopic bullshit. So I don't know, man. And even if they do, you're still going to have a bunch of psychotic, brainwashed nutcases that are going to be all over the place. Anyway, so just Gen RX. So now they admit a Capitol Police officer who was almost killed on January 6th when they've been saying 6 police officers were killed that day for years. They can't keep up with their own lives anymore. Yep. No doubt we are at war. Republicans need to wake the F up before they're all sitting in internment camps. Yeah, well, I guess there is an argument to be made there that, Democrats absolutely would go that far if they were given unchecked power to do whatever the hell they wanted. Yeah, that would most likely be a step that they would attempt to take. I'm just not sure if they'd be able to get through the hundreds of millions of guns that would stand in front of them. Although I don't know if we want that kind of a bloodbath to happen in the country. It certainly doesn't look like an impossible future at this point, though. And that's pretty sad. All right, terrible swift sword. This is why patriotic Americans cannot allow the collectivist left, which has now captured the Democratic Party, to return to power anytime soon. They will expand the Supreme Court and weaponize the legal system to persecute and jail all prominent Republicans simply for implementing policies that counter their ambition to envelop us all in the warm glow of socialism, and for revealing how they have stolen billions of taxpayer dollars to fund their nefarious schemes. Isn't that really isn't that basically how a regime takes power in communist countries when they become communist countries? Don't they put their political rivals on trial, they throw them in prison, and that's basically exactly what it sounds like this lady wants to do. So let's take a listen and see what she's talking about.
Tsunami means that Congress is going to haul Elon Musk, big balls, and a bunch of other people's ass in front and say, what crimes did you commit?
What the hell did Elon Musk do? It's called the First Amendment, lady. That's not... Oh, is it a hate crime now? It's a hate crime to support Donald Trump on certain issues, even though Elon Musk doesn't agree with Trump on a lot of things. You remember when they kind of had a falling out for like 6 months, and then out of the blue, they were seen having Thanksgiving?
And it's going to get really serious. And the same with Trump, because I believe, and this is just my opinion, that Trump and all of the bottom-feeding morons surrounding him, and Elon Musk
she
and all
believes.
the bottom-feeding clinger-oners that surround him, I think they commit crimes every day. And I think...
Well, you think ain't going to hold up in a court of law, you bonehead. But again, like I said, the same with Eric Swalwell. It's not about inside a court of law where individual pieces of evidence are admitted. It's about dragging them in front of Congress, making a big circus out of it, issuing subpoenas, and then stacking up the Supreme Court with a bunch of far leftists and, and changing laws in a certain way that would allow them to prosecute and convict their political rivals. And I'm telling you, man, shit could get ugly really quick.
To reconcile all of this is going to take hardcore, not integrity Democrats. Fuck you, Democrats. Fuck you for fucking over our country. We are serious about this. We are prosecuting. We're going to uncover every document, every phone call, everything you did. We will be relentless about it. And that's the mindset they've got to have, because I think the electorate is going from, we've got to get him out, but also we want accountability.
There has to be accountability. You have to have a situation where there's accountability. And I talked about this.
See, this is what they do to try to steer you away from the rampant fraud that they're engaged with and all the other craziness that Democrats have been involved with for God knows how long.
The other day with Fanone, the former MPD police officer who almost got killed on January 6th. You know, he said, and I think it's true, that it's more than just the Dems win back the Congress and the White House.
Of course, we don't want to talk about the mostly peaceful protests that happened in 2020.
John Roberts Supreme Court decision that gave the President of the United States a blank check. No man or woman should be above the law in this country. And Donald Trump sure as shit should not be above the law in this country.
Well, then how come all his cases got thrown out? I mean, y'all put his ass on trial enough times, over and over again, impeached him twice. I mean, none of it actually stuck because there was nothing there, you fucking idiots.
I think the Democrats have to talk about it in
It's
these
all
terms,
Trump derangement
that,
syndrome.
listen,
right here in bold color.
If we get back in there, and I'm not saying I'm part of the Democratic Party, but I'm saying this is
Oh,
the way
yeah,
the
but you
Democrats
are, though.
Communicate.
Duh.
They should say.
Wait, you're saying you
when
never
they're
voted
back
for a
in
Democrat?
there, if, you know.
Dude,
if you
even
guys
I will say I
are
voted for a
gonna cling to
Democrat
this
before because I
idea that
have.
Donald Trump is unaccountable.
Back
it's
when I
just
was
not gonna
politically
work.
retarded.
And that means adding seats to the Supreme Court so that that immunity decision can be overturned. And so Donald Trump can be held accountable for his crime.
All right. So, yeah, that happened. And that's how deranged the Democrats are. And that got 8.4 million views, by the way. That got a lot of views, man. A lot of people saw that. So, yeah, I'm sure if you scroll through these comments, I'm sure they get quite entertaining pretty quickly. So, but yeah. Anyway, Senator Mazie Hirono, Americans can barely afford food, healthcare, and rent, yet Trump seems more focused on covering up for the ICE agents terrorizing American cities. This is not what America voted for, and it's certainly not what America deserves. Again, a lot of these posts aren't getting a whole lot of attention regardless. I mean, these are elected officials. These are members of Congress, and that alone should be terrifying enough. Whether if they're getting a lot of attention with these individual posts or not. I mean, look, the vast majority of people, even the people who vote for him, they're not seeing all of this. There, a lot of people, even on the left, I'm sure a lot of just every, average working class Democrats, they're not paying attention. They just vote blue no matter who. Although, as unhinged and deranged as they've gotten, as heated up as the political climate has gotten, I find it kind of hard to believe that anybody who's voted, especially in the last election, doesn't otherwise have any clue what's going on in politics other than, like back in the 1980s or maybe like the 1940s or something, where people just politely go to the ballot box and they just vote, and that's just the way it goes, and they don't really pay attention. They might read a newspaper from time to time. All right, whatever. So CNN breaking news: judge orders federal agents cannot retaliate against, arrest, or detain peaceful protesters in Minnesota operations. And that is on CNN, which I don't think that's going to change anything, because retaliate against, don't think that's happening. I mean, if they're obstructing federal agents, yeah, of course they're going to take them down. Of course they're going to do whatever they do. And I've already been clear many times that federal agents go hands-on against the protesters. They must arrest them, but they're not. So if anything, this actually could be a blessing in disguise with regard to that. That might force federal agents to start arresting everybody that they put their hands on, because now it seems like a federal judge is ordering that. You can't retaliate, whatever the hell that means, and arrest, detain, because, like somebody who's standing on the sidewalk, that's not obstructing agents, that's like on a street corner holding up a sign, obviously you can't mess with them. But when they're blocking your vehicles, obviously you can arrest them because they're committing felonies. All right, so where did that go? Is that what this is? Judge issues order preventing some actions by federal agents in Minnesota operation. Federal agents working in Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota are not allowed to arrest peaceful protesters or stop people in their cars without cause. See, there it is, without cause. But see, the thing is when those people in their vehicles are blocking federal agents from conducting their normal duties, they are with cause. They have plenty of cause. Just like the dude, if you watched the swamp that I did yesterday, I think it was yesterday, when some dude was trying to block the entrance of the ICE facility with his really nice pickup truck. I mean, that thing was brand new, probably a $70,000 pickup truck. Well, the agents, they arrested him and then they seized his truck. And he's probably not going to get it back, because if you're using your motor vehicle while committing a felony, or at least being accused of committing a felony, then they're going to seize your truck and you ain't getting it back, because that's just how it works. If you use your vehicle during the commission of a felony, it is no longer your vehicle. It now belongs to the local government, state government, the police, the feds, whoever takes possession of it, they keeping it. So a U.S. district judge ruled in a preliminary injunction today. Judge Catherine Menendez order states federal agents cannot do the following to peaceful protesters. Which again, like I said, this ain't gonna change anything, because they're not messing with people who were just standing there on a street corner. At least not what I've seen. Any videos that I see where people are getting taken down is because they're obstructing and assaulting, retaliate, arrest, or detain them, or use pepper spray or other non-lethal munitions. Menendez also said they can no longer stop and detain drivers when there is no reasonable articulable suspicion they are forcibly obstructing or interfering with federal agents' operations. Look, I 100% agree. I agree. They should have no right to do that. If there's a family, or even just a single individual driving home from work and they're just sitting in traffic and there's this ridiculous protest happening nearby, or whatever the case might be, yeah, the agents can't swarm that vehicle and yank them out of it. I think that virtually every American would agree with that, I would assume. The act of safely following the officers at an appropriate distance does not by itself create reasonable suspicion to justify a vehicle stop. Okay, so you're okay with stalking and following them around everywhere they go? Look, dude, that's an issue of maybe it doesn't rise to the level of national security, but that's certainly a security concern when ICE agents have been fired upon. Remember in Dallas, Texas, when they were taking freaking sniper fire by what's his name, and one of the illegal immigrants in the van was shot and killed by this freaking lunatic. So yeah, when people are following them around, from like taking this turn, taking a right turn, this turn, that turn, and this vehicle just keeps following them everywhere they go. I mean, that it seems like that could be construed as a reasonable suspicion, because why the hell are you following around agents everywhere? I mean, it doesn't seem to make much sense. All right, so the order will be in effect until the operation ends, or when conditions change such that it is no longer necessary. In other words, it's going to stick around forever. The order only applies in Minnesota and only to agents involved in the current operation. It does not apply to other federal officers handling routine duties elsewhere, the order specified. Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see about that, I guess. But if the order specified it, it specified it. In a response tonight, the Department of Homeland Security said it is taking appropriate and constitutional measures to uphold the rule of law and protect our officers and the public from dangerous rioters. Look, like I said, I don't think that this ruling changes a damn thing. It doesn't change anything. You know, don't yank random people out of traffic who have nothing to do with anything. Okay, yeah, point taken. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said that despite these threats, agents follow training and use the minimum amount of force necessary to protect themselves, the public, and federal property. Well, there you go. So that happened. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley suspending immigrant visas for 75 countries is a cruel, racist, and xenophobic policy that does nothing to keep America safe. No, but it absolutely certainly can help keep Americans safe. But most importantly, the reason that they did that was because the immigrants coming from these 75 countries are a net burden on our tax system. They're a net burden on our welfare system, because a sizable amount of these immigrants are immediately putting themselves or getting put on welfare. They're getting free rent, free food, free healthcare, free everything. And in return, they just simply be like, they're just here. It is a betrayal to families who have played by the rules and waited years to be reunited with their loved ones. Oh yeah, because 100% of these people that are coming from these 75 countries, all of them just have loved ones here already. The Trump administration must reverse course. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Breaking, the U.S. will suspend immigrant visa processing from 75 countries whose nationals are deemed likely to need public assistance. See, you see how the Associated Press, at least they were, at least what appears to be down to the point, because that's exactly what the Trump administration said, that they were stopping the immigrant visa processing from 75 countries. because they are a burden on our public assistance system. And it just boggles my mind that there is no federal law in place that prohibits non-Americans from getting taxpayer-funded benefits. That absolutely blows my ever-loving mind. Like somebody who was perhaps they were granted asylum, they were in a war-torn country being persecuted for their religion, or maybe they were helping out soldiers in Afghanistan. Certain circumstances, yeah, maybe you can perhaps possibly get some assistance for a short period of time, and by that, like maybe a couple of months until you can find something, because you got to have some skill. I mean, you're an adult. What did you do in the country you came from? You got to have some skill somewhere, and get a temporary work visa and get through the process. Start through the process. Don't just sit on government welfare the whole time. All right. Oh yeah. Here, let me open it up. I guess I'll read at least a little bit. Every article I come across, I tend to open it and at least take a quick look. The State Department said Wednesday it will suspend the processing of immigrant visas for citizens of 75 countries, including Afghanistan, Iran, Russia, and Somalia, whose nationals the Trump administration is deemed likely to require public assistance while living in the United States. The State Department, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, said it had instructed consular officers to halt immigrant visa applications from the countries affected in accordance with a broader order issued in November that tightened rules around potential immigrants who might become public charges in the U.S. Well, who is this Democrat who's all pissed off about this? Let's see, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. So simply pass a law to make it so that these people from not only the 75 countries, but from all countries in the world, they don't get public assistance when they come into the country. If you pass a law to where they can't get public assistance, then not only will the Trump administration, but I don't think most people would have any problem with them coming into the country, as long as they're following the proper process. We're not flooding in millions every year, because we already found out that tends to be definitely chaotic on our economy, especially in the local economy, where rent skyrockets and food skyrockets and our utility skyrockets, because you got 30 million people who just flooded in virtually overnight that are all consuming those resources that we didn't really have enough time to build up and prepare for. Anyway, so where did that go? All right, State Department. Yeah, I already read that part. So the step builds on earlier immigration and travel bans by the administration on nearly 40 countries and is part of President Donald Trump's ongoing efforts to tighten U.S. entry standards for foreigners. Well, that's the way it should be. U.S. to pause visas from 75 countries. And the latest immigration restriction from the Trump administration. Okay, well, I'm not going to read the same thing all over again, but it looks like these are the countries. In gold, brown, whatever you want to call that color, visa processing pause. So, yeah, the ones in like brownish, like yellowish brown, that's the visa processing pause. The pink is visa processing pause plus immigration restrictions in place. The blue is other immigration restrictions in place. So, yeah, it's a lot of the world, man. A lot of the world. And of course, the Democrats are like, well, it's just all racist. It's just all because they're a bunch of racists. All right. Yeah, because like not all Russians are of European descent. Of course, they've got Russians that go all the way across a very large continent. However, most Russians, I would assume, who come over here look like Europeans. So, but everything's a race issue, though. All right, so Senator Mazie, Hirono. Trump's VA stopped providing our veterans the essential health care they need and deserve. Abortion care is health care. End of story. And withholding health care from our nation's veterans is disgraceful, dangerous, and entirely unpatriotic. Trump administration quietly bans abortions for veterans even after or when health is in danger. Which, by the way, the number of women who get an abortion because they were R-worded, it's a fraction less than 1%. It's a small fraction of 1%. It's like 1 in 1,000, like 1 in 1,000 women. And maybe extreme circumstances like that, I think most people wouldn't have an issue if they wanted to terminate that pregnancy. I think even a lot of conservatives may concede that. Not saying that most of them won't, or even some of them. I'm sure some of them, they're diehards and they're like, no, no matter what, that was God's plan. And, it is what it is. You give them up for an adoption. I know that's an argument for a whole nother time. But anyway, let me see if I put anything. Yeah, so abortion is a result of stupid, immature decisions. Probably should have corrected that and said for the most part. Taxpayers shouldn't pay for heart surgery on someone eating greasy, fatty food 3 times a day either. A small fraction of 1% of abortions are from R and N. And I don't even know if YouTube allows that word, incest. I don't know if we're allowed to say that here on YouTube or not, but I just said it. When talked to a vet lately, Mazie, I have, and they love the new VA. So quit the lying again. We aren't buying. I just don't believe you, Senator. You posted a press release, so I can safely assume the PR agency that wrote the release contributes to your campaign. This is lazy partisanship. Your staff needs to do better when writing your tweets. Yeah, because I would say probably like 90, maybe even 100% of these Democrats, it's their lackeys, it's their cronies, it's their goons that have control of these accounts. And that's who's actually putting all this out. But of course, they're all doing it with these Democrats' blessing. I mean, all these Democrats that whose accounts these are, even though it's probably not her personally typing out these words, she has no problem with these words being spoken, not at all. They totally agree with it. I just don't. Okay, I already did that one. So if abortion is healthcare, is S trafficking transportation? I often say you are the dumbest member of either House of Congress. Posts such as this are redundant proof of that. Abortion is the dismembering of a baby. Yeah, not only is it dismembering a baby, it's dismembering a human body. That's exactly what it is. They are. They're cutting a human body to pieces, and then they suck them out like a vacuum, right? Something like that. Anyway, Congressman Seth Magaziner. Last year, when Trump began threatening to take other countries, I introduced the No Invading Allies Act, a bill to block Trump from sending troops to seize Greenland, Panama, or Canada. It is unbelievable we even need to do this, but we have to take him at his word. Well, look, this is why comedy's dead, especially on the left. And that's why Hollywood can't be funny anymore. So Saturday Night Live can't be funny anymore because they have no idea what a joke even is anymore. They don't have a clue. And maybe like a small percentage of Trump's thinking may have thought that, well, if I pose it with Canada, maybe they might, that might rattle around upstairs a little bit. Maybe we'll see where we can get with some diplomacy. Realistically, Trump had no intention on bringing Canada in to become a U.S. state. That would be beyond stupid for Republicans, because that would essentially be admitting this huge Democratic bloc into the country, which would really wildly throw Republicans pretty far out of reach from having any majority control into the future, because Canada wouldn't be one single state. They would essentially turn every province into a state, and essentially we'd be bringing in, how many provinces are there? It's like 9 or 11 or 12 or something, essentially bringing in like a dozen Democrat states if they were to do that. Not too smart, but of course that was never going to happen. The Democrats don't understand what comedy is anymore. Mayor Jacob Frey, this is an obvious attempt to intimidate me for standing up for Minneapolis local law enforcement and residents against the chaos and danger this administration has brought to our city. I will not be intimidated. My focus remains where it has always been, keeping our city safe. CNN, the Justice Department is investigating Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey over alleged obstruction of law enforcement, a source told CNN. Yeah, of course, Mayor Jacob Frey, he's not very happy about it. So, I mean, naturally, he's going to lash out. He's not too happy about that. All right, so what do we got next? From Bernie Sanders. So last year, after Trump deregulated Wall Street, 6 huge banks made $157 billion in profits, ripping off working families who pay up to 30% interest rates on credit cards. Now we must end usury in America and pass my bill, which caps credit card interest rates at 10% for 5 years. And then I said, ban credit altogether if you really want to bring down costs. I mean, yeah, I stand behind that. If somebody can't spend anything on or put anything on a credit card, and if you can't take loans out for anything, well, then simply can't buy it. And if nobody's buying said company's products, well, they're going to have to lower the prices. I get it. That's going to cause a whole slew of problems in and of itself. I'm sure that'd be like heavily destabilizing for the short term. You think, mass layoffs were bad during the Great Recession or at the beginning of COVID. I mean, it probably wouldn't hold a candle to, if my policy were to kick in, that would probably be disastrous in the short term. Long term would probably be actually very healthy for our economic system, I would think, but maybe not. What the hell do I know? And besides, families, nobody's holding a gun to your head if you're gonna sign the dotted line with a 30% credit card or a credit card with 30% interest. You don't have to take out any loans, but I get it. Like people, there's hardships, and it's a very convenient way to take money in the short term, but it's at the detriment of your long-term potential wealth if you're going to be paying everything in interest. Yeah, it sucks. But did Trump deregulate Wall Street? I kind of vaguely remember something about something like this happening with Wall Street. So I checked it. Did Trump deregulate Wall Street last year? And according to Grok, yes. In 2025, his second term, Trump pursued and implemented significant deregulation of Wall Street and financial services. It included appointing deregulatory leaders at agencies like the SEC, the OCC, the FDIC, and the CFPB, rolling back or easing post-2008 rules, e.g. capital requirements for big banks, and Basel III elements, not familiar with what that means, a 10-to-1 deregulation executive order eliminating many rules, sharp drops in enforcement actions and penalties. Not sure I really agree with that. I think if there's any funny business going on Wall Street, they should absolutely be heavily, whether it's fined or imprisoned. Efforts to weaken or overhaul oversight bodies like gutting parts of the CFPB. Critics warned that this increased risk of instability. Supporters said it boosted growth and reduced burdens. Note, last year from January 26 means 2025. And CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, I believe. All right, so let's head on to the next post from Congresswoman Maggie. Is it Goodlander? Did I get it right? Yeah, I did. I got it right. See, I'm learning. I'm starting to get the names. Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander, another Democrat. Oh, wait, what district was she from again? New Hampshire, 2nd. All right, so we are not a country that detains human beings in industrial warehouses, but the Trump administration is trying to make us one that does. I'm demanding answers and fighting back. Let's take a look at this.
We're not a country where we keep human beings in industrial warehouses. You know, in New Hampshire, we're dealing right now.
Yeah, because jails are so much better than industrial warehouses. Which president kept kids in cages? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Obama.
The threat of an industrial warehouse being retrofitted by ICE to become a detention center. And, you know, as with so much that happens under this administration, there are no clear answers.
Well, dude, a warehouse is where people, bust their asses for 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Often these warehouses don't have adequate heating or air conditioning, but nevertheless, people have to work full time in these conditions. So are you suggesting that all that's inhumane too? Or are we going to have to start heating and cooling all of our warehouses now?
We just have reporting that this may happen. And what I have
Human
seen,
beings literally work in industrial warehouses, lady.
Extraordinary response from the community who've come out to peacefully and to clearly speak with one voice to say that this is not who we are.
All right, Ray, I'm just another one of those white liberal women. Of course. And just a quick comment on the whole Obama kids in cages. I'm pretty sure I'm actually right on that, so let's take a look at that. Was there a controversy with the Obama administration putting immigrant minors in cages? You know, I tried to word it in a way that, you know, it doesn't, step over one or skip over something else. So anyway, it says, yes, there was a controversy surrounding the Obama administration's handling of immigrant minors in detention facilities that use chain link fences, often referred to as cages, particularly during a 2014 surge of unaccompanied children at the U.S.-Mexico border. These facilities were built and operated under Obama to temporarily hold thousands of unaccompanied minors amid overwhelmed conditions, with reports of poor treatment, overcrowding, and abuse in the broader immigration detention system. The administration also expanded family detention centers for asylum-seeking mothers and children, drawing criticism from groups like the ACLU for using detention as a deterrent and violating settlement agreements on child welfare. And it goes on from there. Oh, yeah, but it's all the Trump administration, though. I mean, even when Obama did it, it's still Trump's fault no matter what. Because, everything that happened under Obama in 2014, 100% Trump's fault. All right, so I can skip over that one because we already went over that from Swalwell. Geraldo Rivera, so this ought to be interesting. Enforcing the nation's immigration laws is important. So is recognizing this is a nation of immigrants. Yeah, but what about some of us who have ancestors who came over to the United States before the United States was the United States? Pre-1776. There wasn't a country back then. I don't think you can immigrate to a country. You can settle land that is not a country. So, I mean, there were settlers. There were probably there's probably tens of millions, if not hundreds, well over 100 million people who are alive today whose ancestors were not immigrants. They were actually settlers before there was even a country here.
Being part Latino and part Jewish, two heritages.
I mean, Geraldo, I'm sure he's got immigrants in his ancestry.
Over time. What I don't want is what appears, at least according to protesters, to be happening in Minneapolis is a kind of targeting of Latinos. People go, ICE agents going up to people who happen to be brown-skinned and saying, papers, please. Where were you born?
What'd you make of Kristi Noem saying you should carry around your immigration papers?
Well, I mean, imagine.
Well, if you're an immigrant, it's imagine
what
if
it
you're an
would
immigrant,
be
maybe.
If it was all Irish people had to carry around a passport or a document that said that you were an Irish person. I mean, what do you tell your children? That you're different than every other American? That
and the Jews had to wear patches in Germany.
We're going to pin it to your lapel.
Yeah, I know. We can all see where that goes. Crazy times. All right, Maya Wiley, this is not a drill. Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American citizens are already people being stopped, harassed, and even wrongly deported because of skin color. Yeah, trying to suggest that American citizens are being deported now with the framing. This isn't freedom, this isn't civil rights, and this isn't right. So we march, we use our voices, and we vote. About 700 likes for that one. History shows us where papers, please leads. It's not right, and we won't stay silent. Yeah, papers, please. You mean the same papers, please during the middle of the COVID pandemic in New York City, where you were not allowed to go shop for food. You weren't allowed to go into any public establishment unless you need to show your vaccine papers, please, or else you're not allowed to come in here. I seem to remember a time where that was happening in blue cities, not in red areas, generally speaking, but certainly happening in a lot of blue areas. Congressman Chris Deluzio, Secretary Noem's leadership has been marked by failure, lawbreaking, and corruption. She's got to go. Congress should impeach and remove her from office. I'm sure that it won't stop there. They're going to want to impeach literally everybody in the Trump administration, no matter what, because they just hate Orange Man. Notice how they never give any examples, just general statements. I mean, yeah, they don't. They're always general. They generalize everything. They don't give any specifics. All right, so Senator Dick Durbin, this is absolutely horrific. Immigration detention is at a crisis point under this administration. I will be demanding information from DHS on Mr. Campos' death, as well as the growing number of individuals in detention, recent reports regarding massive facilities that will warehouse large number of immigrants, and a lack of detention oversight. The administration's current detention scheme is dangerous and will result in more deaths. Well, it tends to happen when you open the floodgates and tens of millions of illegals flood into the country. We're not going to get rid of them one by one. They're all going to have to be put somewhere. And got this from Michael Bennet. President Trump has declared a full-scale crusade against Colorado. Just recently, he vetoed my bill that would provide 50,000 rural Coloradans with clean drinking water. In the last few months alone, he's denied critical disaster relief for Colorado communities, slashed hundreds of millions in federal grants for child care and transportation, and removed Space Command from Colorado Springs. Colorado will not back down. I will continue fighting this retaliation at every turn. Well, the whole drinking water thing, why is that not a state of Colorado issue? I'm sure probably most, if not all of these talking points probably should be corrected, fixed, managed, maintained by the state of Colorado, not the federal freaking government. But of course, Democrats, they want the federal government to be just absolute in their power with them at the helm.
This campaign is why he continues to delay Colorado disaster relief and is working to cancel hundreds of millions of dollars in federal.
All right, well, hold on. I got to look it up. What is he talking about with this disaster relief? Okay, so what Colorado disaster relief did the Trump administration deny? In December of 2025, the Trump administration denied Colorado's request for major disaster declarations, unlocking FEMA federal relief funds for two events. The Elk and Lee wildfires from August of 2025 in the Rio Blanco County area, including massive acreage burn and infrastructure damage. The western southwestern Colorado flooding in October of 2025, affecting areas like La Plata and Archuleta counties. And so I asked how many people were affected by this insane natural disaster. Well, the short summary of people affected by the denied Colorado disaster relief: the Elk and Lee wildfires, primarily rural and remote areas with low population density. It only destroyed 5 homes. That's it, just 5 homes. Major disaster relief that they requested from including FEMA resources, 5 houses. That's it, 5. And and also don't forget the between 14 and 19 outbuildings. Forced evacuations, including a prison with 179 inmates. Even though, again, 5 homes were destroyed, we're not talking tens of thousands, we're talking 5. and 179 inmates were transferred in pre-evacuations in parts of 2 counties. No large-scale resident displacement reported. Thousands were threatened, but actual evacuees were limited. Yeah, if you evacuate an area and your place was untouched by a natural disaster, you don't get FEMA help. I mean, your place is fine. Western, southwestern Colorado flooding, October 2025, evacuated 400. 400 homes were evacuated. And how many? So 2 houses. Look at this, man. This is so fucking stupid. 2 houses were lost. 90 to 100 had flood damage. High water rescues, 11. 11 were rescued from the water. So we're talking 100 homes with flood damage, 11 with rescues. Yeah, that is absolutely 100% something that Colorado can take care of on their own. That is definitely not something that would rise to the level of major federal disaster relief. Are you kidding? This isn't Hurricane Katrina. This isn't Hurricane freaking Milton or Hurricane Ian or Irma or like name your hurricane. It's ain't a hurricane level event. It didn't displace tens, hundreds of thousands of people, lost countless thousands of homes. No, nothing like that. If it did, if it wiped out, I don't know, like a Pacific Palisades situation, then sure, maybe that would be something that would probably rise to the level of requiring disaster assistance. But yeah, dude, nice try though.
For childcare, for energy, for wildlife, and transportation funding. It's why the president.
All stuff Colorado should be doing on their own.
The state's ability to decide how we clean up our air and deal with the aging.
Oh, that's a riot. That he's suggesting that Trump and the Republicans are trying to dictate how Colorado manages their air. I believe that the whole climate change narrative it's kind of driven a little heavily by Democrats than Republicans.
Energy infrastructure that we have. It's why the president has doubled down on his attacks, not just in Colorado, but in other places, on food assistance programs. And sadly, why he moved Space Command out of Colorado.
Huntsville, Alabama.
That had voted for him.
It's probably where it should have been all along.
These attacks are just the beginning when it comes to this singular lawlessness and recklessness of President Trump.
Yeah, dude, you got some weak-ass arguments. Come on, man.
President Trump
Come on, man.
Weaponized his office, punishing political opponents, rewarding loyal allies.
Punishing political opponents. Who has Trump punished politically as an opponent? I mean, like what Democrats are facing, like actual real consequences for their actions. At least any that were not heavily deserved of said action, like Ilhan Omar, and I don't know, I'm sure there's other names that escape me at the moment, but
working tirelessly, not for the benefit of the American people, but for those who only.
If anything, it's the Democrats that are talking about weaponizing the political system,
and for himself and for his family.
We must impeach everybody.
That is not the American way. It's not how an American president should make decisions about anything.
All right, dude, snooze fest. That was like literally nothing. 244 likes. All right, Richard Blumenthal. These subpoenas are an authoritarian threat, further weaponizing and corrupting DOJ and aiding an ongoing cover-up. Feds seek to whitewash ICE, silence dissent, and exclude state and local law enforcement from investigating Good's tragic death.
Governor Walz and Mayor Frey.
Which, by the way, Good was the woman who tried to run over the ICE agent, actually struck the ICE agent with her vehicle, and he suffered internal bleeding, had to be rushed to the hospital, spent time in the hospital. The Department of Homeland Security, the official government agency, confirmed all of that he'd suffered internal bleeding.
Investigation tonight by the Justice
So, yeah, I'd say he was kind of justified in defending himself with deadly force.
Caitlin, I can't help but think it's a cheap political stunt designed to silence the mayor and
cheap political
the
stunt.
Governor,
that's pretty rich.
Weaponizing and frankly corrupting the Department of Justice. As a former federal prosecutor, all of us know that you don't announce an investigation of a mayor and a governor simply because they want their agents and investigators to be involved in potentially prosecuting a crime that occurred in their state and city. What's happening here is a cover-up.
What cover-up? Tell us what it is. What's the cover-up?
Because the federal government, the Department of Justice, wants to...
that Governor Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey are obstructing. They're obstructing the government. I would argue probably aiding and abetting countless illegal immigrants in the state of Minnesota.
And local investigators, because they're afraid they're going to uncover the truth. And a lot of this truth is out there for everyone to see in the video.
Yeah, you're right. Democrats are afraid that they're going to uncover the truth.
Silence the governor and the mayor. It's an act of retribution. it demeans the Department of Justice beyond words.
Is there any precedent that you can think of for a subpoena like this? What we've told has been issued by a grand jury. Apparently, Mayor Walz and Mayor Frey and Governor Walz have not yet gotten it. Is there any precedent for them to get a subpoena like this, in your view?
There is no precedent whatsoever.
Yeah, there probably is.
Top public
Probably
officials,
plenty of
governor
precedent.
and mayor, who are simply trying to fulfill their responsibility, seeking justice, to receive a subpoena. And your point that they haven't yet received it is very telling.
Why?
Normally, a subpoena is issued secretly by the grand jury, and it's served before any public disclosure.
A subpoena? Are you sure that you're not talking about an indictment? I think grand juries usually issue indictments, not subpoenas.
So that there's no attempt to avoid the compulsory process to produce evidence, either to leave the jurisdiction.
This dumbass is still wearing his Ukraine pin. You can't make that up.
Or to destroy documents.
That's
Most
hilarious.
Prosecutors want that subpoena served before anybody knows about it. So your sources have told you about it. I'm not
He's a little behind
asking
on
you
the
about your
times.
sources, but the fact that they allowed
I guess
this
he didn't get his
information
Gaza pin
to
yet.
be
He didn't get his
disclosed
Venezuela
is very
pin yet.
telling. It's not a serious prosecution.
So what do you, if you say it's not a serious prosecution, what do you think that Mayor Frey and Governor Walz should do when they get these?
Ignore them. Don't do
They should
anything.
Go to court.
Wipe their ass with
They
it.
should seek injunctions against it. But you know what's also very telling is the governor has really urged peace, peaceful protests, turning down the temperature.
Yeah,
Donald
turning down the temperature, like calling ICE Trump's Gestapo.
is
Yeah, that's really
escalating,
turning down the temperature.
dialing up the heat.
Accusing
his
federal
words
agents
are
of
now
kidnapping
in
innocent
this
American citizens.
proposed
That's really turning down the temperature. Whatever, dude. Get the fuck out of here. All right, so Robin Kelly, Secretary Noem, and her rogue agents are terrifying people. People, immigrants and Americans alike, are too scared to go to work, drop their kids off at school, go to doctor's appointments, and eat out. Yeah, like I'm sure that Minneapolis is totally a ghost town, that nobody's reporting to work, and those who aren't reporting to work are just showing up to protests, and schools are completely devoid of any students at all. Yeah, I somehow kind of sort of doubt that. I'm impeaching Secretary Noem for violating public trust, which, I mean, look, I still have yet to hear exactly what they're impeaching her over, but for violating public trust, not so sure if that's something that's going to hold up as far as an impeachment hearing. But yeah, whatever the case might be, they're just going to make up a bunch of nothing, just like they did when they impeached Trump twice. They impeached him twice over literally nothing because he made a phone call. I mean, come on. So, and that's where we're going to get for the next 2 years. And I would put a lot of the blame on Republicans because they're not going to even consider nuking the filibuster, which really could put them in a very strong position of power for the foreseeable future. Absolutely would, especially if Democrats take over the Senate again. That is going to be agenda day one. Day one, they will nuke that filibuster. They've already been clear that they will. They already tried to nuke the filibuster some years ago, but Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, they put a stop to it. They were the only two Democrats that wouldn't allow that to happen, and it didn't happen. But they're not there anymore. And every Democrat in the Senate, pretty sure they've been pretty clear that they're going to nuke the filibuster. It's going to happen.
It is very scary. And also, like the mayor said, people are saying they're scared, and I know I've met people that are scared to go outside, scared to go to work, scared, to go to
they're in the country illegally. I don't blame them.
We've talked a lot about affordability. This is affecting people's bottom line. It's affecting, if you don't go to your job, you're not going to get paid. If you don't have people working.
Yeah, I wonder who's not going to their job. Just look to your left on the screen.
They're not coming to work. That hurts people. So they are
a lot of people staying up all night,
ways. Even people
sleeping all day,
go to the doctor.
You see all these. This is what's hilarious about this. Innocent, peaceful protesters. They're innocently, peacefully protesting. Nobody's doing anything wrong. Giant mortars are just firing off all over the place because I don't think that federal agents exactly have, downtown 4th of July mortar fireworks in their arsenal. Pretty sure that might be the absolutely gentle, peaceful, loving, innocent protesters.
Because they're afraid of being picked
firing
up.
off their love rockets.
Kind of stories. And in fact, we
at
heard
federal agents,
from someone from Minnesota today that said, and she's an American citizen, scared to death to go outside.
And why are all these people like barging onto private property anyway?
Also, like the mayor said, people are saying they're scared, and I know I've met people that are scared to go outside, scared to go.
Like, you know what a Democrat would say? That's not a firework. That's just tear gas. That's from the ICE agents. Tear gas have lovely purple and blue and orange colors when they fire off.
This is affecting people's bottom line.
Oh, yeah, so I'm already listening to this again. I'm having too much fun with that. All right. How much time do I got? All right, an hour and 20. I think it's getting a little late, and I think it's after midnight, so I don't know. Maybe I'll do a couple more. Like, I actually pulled a whole bunch of these. Hold on, let me like that real quick. Yeah, I pulled a whole bunch of these, so maybe I'll finish this up tomorrow if I have time. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more than I thought I had. I thought I had like maybe 25 or so. Actually, you know what? These actually might be leftovers. Yeah, these look like leftovers from my swamp episode from yesterday. Maybe not. No, these aren't. Yeah, those are ones that I pulled today. So yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna do. I'll probably do one or two more of these, and then maybe I'll do a part 2 tomorrow. Maybe I'll check the feed and see what else I can come up with, like this one, Pocahontas, another one from Swalwell. What else we got? Let's see. Governor Phil Murphy. Like it's kind of a mix. There's Jayapal, Fine L's, Isha. There's not a whole lot of Democrat stuff right now. Maybe it's just because it's late. Another one from Jayapal, Bernie Sanders again. But yeah, anyway. So let me just do a couple more of these. And Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. Raja Krishnamurthy from, I didn't even look. Illinois District 8. All right, this week, Republicans told Trump he could use military force abroad with impunity as long as he avoids the word war. That's a blank check for abuse of power and a betrayal of Congress's constitutional duty. I mean, I would have loved to hear them say that in a video instead of just reading it from an article on Politico where they can frame it any way they want. The Senate scuttled legislation requiring President Donald Trump to seek congressional approval before taking further military action against Venezuela. A big win for a White House that strongly resisted efforts to curb its powers. Republicans won a razor-thin procedural vote that effectively killed the measure. Well, dude, that's also pretty framing it in a certain kind of way, because in the Senate, everything's going to be a razor-thin majority, because no matter what the Republicans are going to vote on, they're going to get 100% pushback from Democrats who are not going to vote for it. The procedural gambit saw 2 GOP senators who broke ranks with their party and Trump last week. Senators Josh Hawley of Missouri, and Todd Young of Indiana switched sides to help defeat the resolution. With the chamber deadlocked at 50-50, Vice President J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote to defeat the legislation. In addition to Hawley and Young, Senators Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Rand Paul supported the measure last week. Collins, Murkowski, and Paul, though, voted with Democrats on Wednesday. The victory is a sign of the president's continued sway over the GOP after a rare rebuke last week when 5 Republicans defied the president and helped Democrats bring the resolution to the Senate floor. Still, the narrowness of the margin and full court press from the administration and GOP leadership required to beat back the Democrats suggests the fight over Trump's war powers isn't ending anytime soon. All right. So let's head on to the next from Kelly Morrison. By the way, all these articles, I'm not going to read through them all, but they'll be linked below in the description if you want to take a look at them. All right, Kelly Morrison, ICE needs to leave our state immediately. But in the meantime, know that my office and I stand ready to support our community however we can.
My office has been getting increased outreach from people who have loved ones who have been detained by ICE. I want to make sure everyone
they're getting
knows
deported.
If you are a resident of Minnesota's 3rd Congressional District and have a loved one who has been detained by ICE, my office is here to help. You can contact us at 952.
Not gonna be able to do much. If they have an order for removal, they're leaving. I mean, are you suggesting that your office will help the Minnesota resident, your constituent? Are you going to pay for their ticket to go back to their home country? I mean, is that what you're going to be helping with?
Please know we are only able to communicate with federal agencies like ICE and DHS on behalf of Minnesotans who live in the 3rd Congressional District. If you or a loved one are concerned that you may be at risk of being detained by ICE, you can choose to proactively fill out a privacy release form.
Now, look, if Democrats retake Congress again, they're going to abolish ICE completely. They're going to abolish probably the Department of Homeland Security altogether. Probably going to completely get rid of DHS, get rid of Customs and Border Protection. They're going to tear down the border wall. And if you thought that the floodgates were open during the Biden administration, we ain't seen nothing yet. They're going to open up everything, and there's going to be no law enforcement whatsoever to stop them. And I would imagine that blue states would become absolute just hellhole wastelands, would be absolutely just unbelievably just chaotic. Also, I don't know if nuking the filibuster will allow them to nuke the Electoral College. I don't know if they would have that power to do that. I don't know if that might be something that they would have to amend constitutionally, which they probably would. I would imagine you probably have to amend the Constitution maybe to get rid of the Electoral College. But if they had the ability, they will.
That means we would be able
Direct
to
democracy.
like getting information
That's what the
from
Democrats
ICE about
want.
an individual's location and
Flood the country with
status,
100 million
getting
illegals.
people their medication,
Turn them into a surf
flagging
class.
medical needs for
Brainwash them into voting Democrat.
You can download the privacy.
We'll give you
release
free.
form
We'll give
from
you
my
free healthcare.
website or in the link in my Instagram.
We'll give you free food. Oh shit! I paused it.
Instructions for
My
submitting
bad.
paperwork are
It's getting
in
late.
form.
I gotta finish this up.
I know these are incredibly difficult, scary times, and let me be clear. ICE needs to leave our state immediately. But in the meantime, my office and I stand ready to support our community however we can. We will get through this together.
Pro-illegal immigration. They're demanding that federal law enforcement leaves Minnesota forever. So all of these illegal immigrants, I mean, look, dude, it's a safe haven. If Trump's like, okay, fine, if that's what they want, they got it. Do you think that they're going to have this enormous, massive influx of illegal immigrants just dumping into Minnesota by the millions? I'm sure they will. I mean, if illegal immigrants across the country hear that there's a state that they can go to where they will not be messed with at all, yeah, it's going to be like, I'm sure their population is going to probably balloon up to like 40 million people probably. Or maybe not, I don't know. All right, let me just do one more. Senator Lisa Murkowski. These tariffs are unnecessary, punitive, and a profound mistake. They will push our core European allies further away while doing nothing to advance U.S. national security. We're already seeing the consequences of these measures in real time. Our NATO allies are being forced to divert attention and resources to Greenland, a dynamic that plays directly into Putin's hands by threatening the stability of the strongest coalition of democracies the world has ever seen. Congress must work together to reassert our constitutional authority over tariffs so they are not weaponized in ways that harm our alliances and undermine American leadership. And that's going to be on AP News. You open that up. Okay. And say, I thought I sent, all right, anyway, I said, except they have invested literally trillions of dollars into manufacturing inside the United States. Obviously, Democrats aren't for the working class anymore, which they're not. They're absolutely not for the working class anymore. Let's see. Yeah, the numbers Trump throws around, probably a little high on his numbers. He likes to tout, what is it, $18 trillion, maybe $19 trillion in total investment. That's not just the private sector. It was at the United Arab Emirates. I think that they pledged like $1.9 trillion or something like that over a period of time. So, but still, it's measured in the trillions and trillions of dollars. Like Apple, what is that? $500 billion. That's $500 billion with one single company. All right. So President Donald Trump said Saturday that he would charge a 10% import tax starting in February on goods from 8 European nations because of their opposition to American control of Greenland, setting up a potentially dangerous test of U.S. partnerships in Europe. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, UK, Netherlands, and Finland would face the tariff. Trump said in a social media post while at his golf club in West Palm Beach. The rate would climb to 25% on June 1st if no deal was in place for the complete and total purchase of Greenland by the United States, he said. Look, did that really happen? I mean, that's a hell of a bold move. The Republican president appeared to indicate that he was using the tariffs as leverage to force talks with Denmark and other European countries over the status of Greenland, a semi-autonomous territory of NATO ally Denmark that he regards as critical to U.S. national security. I mean, I guess I would ask the people of Greenland, what do you all want to do? You just want to keep doing what you're doing? Or because I heard, not sure if it's true, but apparently it's either Trump or officials in the Trump administration were tossing around the idea that they were going to supply each citizen of Greenland with $100,000 if they were to become an American territory. Not sure if that's actually true or not. At a minimum, I think it's an idea they were throwing around. Quote, the United States of America is immediately open to negotiation with Denmark and or any of these countries that have put so much at risk despite all that we have done for them, Trump said on Truth Social. I mean, look, how much is he planning on purchasing Greenland for? Because, based on our national deficit, I don't think we have a lot of extra money just laying around. And if Trump says that he wants to use the profits or the proceeds of the tariffs, like, dude, you've already pledged this tariff money to a number of different things, including $5,000 checks to every single American. The tariff threat could mark a problematic rupture between Trump and America's longtime NATO partners, further straining an alliance that dates back to 1949 and provides a collective degree of security to Europe and North America. Trump has repeatedly tried to use trade penalties to bend allies and rivals alike to his will, generating investment commitments from some nations and pushback from others, notably China. Look, 30, 40, 50 years from now, I don't think we're going to be as linked with Europe as we are currently. I don't think we're going to be as close of allies as we were in the 20th century. A lot of it has to do with just mass migration in general. And there's some arguments that France, for instance, apparently 40, 50 years from now, the number of immigrants that are poured into France and the number of children that they're having per family would push the general population of France into over a 50% Muslim or Islamic population, which would, I guess, would effectively, if they wanted to, they could turn France into an Islamic republic. So not so sure how close our allies are going to be in the distant future. So, does that really do anything today? I mean, not really. So I don't know if Trump's really that forward thinking. Anyway, Trump is scheduled to travel on Tuesday to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where he likely will run into the European leaders. He just threatened with tariffs that would start in little more than 2 weeks. Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said Trump's move was a surprise given the constructive meeting with top U.S. officials this week in Washington. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the head of the European Council, Antonio Costa, said in a joint statement that tariffs would undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. They said Europe would remain committed to upholding its sovereignty. Well, yeah, man, like Europe, they're going through some economic turmoil. I think everybody in the world is. I mean, we're still dealing with the fallout after COVID. So, I'm sure that, a 10% tariff on everything probably would be a bit problematic. But anyway, it goes on and on, so I'm not going to go read through the whole thing. And AP, they're wanting me to sign up and subscribe and pay them money because I'm sure they're hemorrhaging money over at the AP, just like all the other leftist publications, the mainstream news, the fake news. All right. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I host a show Monday through Friday called The Swamp, where I cover daily happenings inside our federal machine, which is usually posted by 11 p.m. and runs about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And also I post daily on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.